Women, today we're going to answer the question, who sits on the throne of your life? Now, hopefully this video is going to help answer that question. And the reason why we want to answer this, because I think it's important for us to recognize and to be honest with ourselves of what's kind of the guiding force, the thing that has control or has the most influence in our life. You know, maybe another way to say it is, who do we put first in our life as far as who sits on the throne? Who comes first? Here's a couple other questions that might help us focus a little bit more. Would you say that you're a person that prayerfully presents your needs before the Lord and then patiently waits for him to answer before you take action in different things in your life? Or are you a person that acts in the moment and then maybe prays later to have God fix whatever you already did? Now, probably for most of us, we would love to say that yes, the answer to the first question is yes, I put God first, that I pray and then I respond as God leads. But if you're anything like me, you recognize that unfortunately, that's not how life oftentimes plays out. So hopefully this video is going to help all of us be challenged to say, we want the answer to be God sits on the throne of our life. So how do we do that? What does that mean? So the first point I want to make today is that God deserves to be the first in our lives. He deserves that place of prominence. Let's look at Romans chapter 11, starting in verse 33 and see why. It says, "Oh, how great are God's riches and wisdom and knowledge! How impossible it is for us to understand his decisions and his ways. For who can know the Lord's thoughts? Who knows enough to give him advice? And who has ever given him so much that he needs to pay it back? For everything comes from him and exists by his power and is intended for his glory. All glory to him forever. Amen." Now, clearly from that passage, we see that God should be the supreme place because he's the supreme being of this universe. He's the creator of all things. We don't go to God and say, let me give you some advice. He doesn't seek wisdom or knowledge from us. He is all powerful and all knowing. So he should be first in our lives. Don't you want to trust your life to a big God? The second thing is that we should let God be first in our lives. Let's look at Romans chapter 12, the next chapter after these verses. From chapter 11 we just read, it says, "And so I plead with you to give your bodies to God because all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good, pleasing, and perfect." So the idea is not just knowing, yes, God should be first in my life. He should be the one sitting on the throne of my life, but we need to allow him to have that place of prominence. So evaluate yourself as I evaluate me. You know, look at your priorities. Look what it says in verse 1 there again of chapter 12. "I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice." Ladies, our challenge should be, what are our priorities? Do I fill my life more with the garbage of this culture and the movies and the books and the TV shows that I read, or am I ever in the Bible? Am I ever spending time praying? Am I ever in Christian fellowship? What are my priorities that would make God be on the throne or myself be on the throne? You know, another thing to evaluate is look at your thoughts. Let's look at verse 2 again from chapter 12. It says, "Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think." What do you think about? Do you think about what honors God? Do you want to know what honors God? And do you do anything toward wanting to implement that in your life? And lastly, evaluate your own actions. From verse 2, it says, "Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." See, women, it's important that if we let God be on the throne of our lives, then we're going to know what our life should be about. We're going to know how we should be as a wife and as a mom and a friend and a worker, because we're seeking after him and we're desiring his plan over our own. So let's all take the challenge to take ourselves off the throne and put God on the throne of our lives.